Hey everyone, Cody Hayes here, and I'd like to welcome you to part three as we look at the book of Revelation. And we don't really have much left to cover, so this shouldn't take too long. But just a bit here, a new Jerusalem and a warning. Kind of starting off here, 144,000 among the elect. The 144,000, I focus on that it's multiples of 12. Although students have brought up to me in the past that it's also a multiple of 40, and I was doing the math, and sure enough, yeah, it is. Of course, number 40 is used common by Jews and carried on over by Christians. But the number 12 has a symbolic meaning too, relating to the original 12 tribes of Israel. And of course, 144,000 just being multiples of that. Um, where the number 144,000 caused some controversy is with the group that's officially known as the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, but whom we commonly refer to as Jehovah's Witnesses, where they held that there would be, 144,000, truly among, their members that would receive, the glories of the New Jerusalem, the heavenly bliss. But when their numbers increased beyond that, it caused them to have to reevaluate the situation, but they took the 144,000 literally. And so I think the way that the Watchtower has clarified in the decades later is that 144,000 will be among those that get to live in heaven. But the other members of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, Jehovah's Witnesses, they will get to live in a paradise on earth. But continuing forward with the New Jerusalem, how nothing unclean shall enter this New Jerusalem. To emphasize this point, I want to read a portion here of the Catechism of the Catholic Church on purgatory. All who die in God's grace and friendship, but still imperfectly purified, are indeed assured of their eternal salvation. But after death, they undergo purification so as to achieve the holiness necessary to enter the joy of heaven. The Church gives the name purgatory to this final purification of the elect, which is entirely different from the punishment of the damned. So basically, the theology is that if you die in the grace of God, you're saved. But if you're not where you should be, that is perfect, that you die with some type of venial sin on you or some attachment to a venial sin, God essentially purifies you to get you to where you should be. And things like prayers or the celebration of the Eucharist can essentially speed up this process, even though it will happen eventually. Now, even if you disagree with the theology regarding purgatory, the point that's to be made here is how nothing unclean shall enter this new Jerusalem, as kind of referenced with the passage there in the Catechism, that you're saved, but you're not where you're supposed to be. And it also relates to the teaching of theosis. It's kind of like the final stage of the teaching of theosis, where you become godlike in Christ. But even if you disagree with that theology, the point being here is how nothing unclean shall enter this new Jerusalem. And then a warning to the copyists. So I'm going to read this passage from the book of Revelation, even though I believe I did so at the very one of the at the beginning of the semester with one of my first lectures. I, John of Patmos, warn everyone who hears the words of the prophecy of this book. If anyone adds to them, God will add to that person the plagues described in this book. If anyone takes away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God will take away that person's share in the tree of life and in the holy city, which are described in this book. Now, the warning that John of Patmos was given, or giving, I should say, was to copyists, redactors, a scare tactic he gave them. Was he successful? No, because we have different manuscripts of the book of Revelation. Like, for example, some manuscripts have the number of the beast at 666, other have the number at 616. Now, these changes by copyists, some of them could have just completely disregarded John's warning and changed things as they saw fit, or they, just could have made a mistake. I mean, perhaps in writing down the number of the beast, they just accidentally made one mistake. Who knows? But that was the warning related to the copyists. And I might as well add with that too, even though I'm sure I said this at one of my very first lectures, probably the same one, how some individuals from the passage that I read think that this is referring to the Bible as a whole. It is not. The Bible, as we would conceive of it, did not actually exist yet. What John again was referring to was his specific book, the book of Revelation. John arguably would not have known many of the other works that would become part of the Bible. And some of them arguably weren't even written yet. Well, that's essentially all that we have with the book of Revelation. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. Until then, take care.